So, a couple of years ago at a Comic-Con, Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Ranger, said that her and her boyfriend was working on a comic with Boom Studios, and although no official press release was out at this point about the comic, we heard nothing but radio silence for the longest time, up until the Kickstarter this year, where they announced that Amy Jo Johnson would be working on a comic with Boom Studios that would be a reimagining of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And here we have a prologue of that upcoming reimagining story with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reimagining, which is the prologue for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return. And this story, it sounds like it's got an interesting idea. So it's written by Amy Jo Johnson and Matt Hotson, and artwork done by Francesco Mortarino. Now, the artwork for this story is freaking fantastic. I love Francesco's artwork. He always gets it on point. This story is kind of a weird one. And I feel like if Amy and Matt had more pages to work with, or they could have made this a longer prologue, then I feel like they could have fleshed out a lot more with this story, because it flies by very quickly with what's going on. So, what's the premise of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Reimagining? Well, it's an alternate retelling of the history of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the 6 original Rangers, and things play out very differently. When Lord Zed comes, you have Rita using the love potion on him right away. You have all the Rangers go to the peace conference, but we don't really see the replacements. They say they're going to be replaced, but we don't see them in this story. You see them all graduate together through high school and college and stuff like that, so that's a neat little moment they put in this story. And then you have the wedding between Kimberly and Tommy, where Tommy engages, he proposes to Kimberly, and they get married. So if you're a huge Kimberly and Tommy fan and you always wanted to see them get together, well, this story's for you, because you actually get to see that in this book. So after that, you sort of get to see their lives of what they would do post being a ranger, while Lord Zed and Rita are getting married within the next couple of years. So you have Jason being a firefighter, Trini being a scholar or an architect, I guess, because she's holding a lot of files in front of a building. It's hard to say what she does. Billy's a scientist, Zach's a DJ, and Kimberly and Tommy, well, they're doing their gymnastics and their karate, so they're sort of doing that as they move forwards with their lives. But then the comic takes a drastic turn where Lord Zed and Rita come down on Serpentera and blow up the command center. And we get this really cool page that Francesco drew of like Serpentera towering over the Megazord and the Dragonzord. Like, even the Megazord is like leaping up into the air to try and fight Serpentera, but the command center is blown to smithereens and Zordon and Alpha are killed. So, Trini asks, what do they do now? And Tommy says, we take the fight to them. And then suddenly, we flash forward to 30 years later, and we see a much older Kimberly, and it looks like she's heading back to Angel Grove for a flight, but she's also changed her name to Emma Phillips. Now, what's really cool about this last page we see as Kimberly's about to board the plane is that you see the moon in the background, and it's all blown up from the big battle that they had. Like, you sort of see the moon in the like reflection of the window, and there's a huge chunk taken out of it to show the big battle that they had all those years ago. So that's really cool. But yeah, it does say to be continued in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Return, whenever we're getting that. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Return is finally here. So this is a brand new comic book series written by Amy Jo Johnson and Matt Hotson. And the premise of this series is that it's an alternate universe where the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers defeated Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa, but because of some events that went down during that big battle, the team decided to go their separate ways as they promised to never become Power Rangers again. But 22 years later, they'll have to find an old friend and morph once again. Now, there was a prelude for this series back in August 2023 that was in the MMPR 30th anniversary comic, and they don't show those preview pages here. So if you want to check out that prelude, you'll probably have to wait for the trade back or go buy a digital copy or try and track down a physical copy of MMPR 30th anniversary comic. It's definitely a good insight, the sort of tease of what's going to happen in this book coming up, because that does show what happened to the Rangers leading up to the big battle of the moon. But yeah, if you don't see it here, then we'll probably get it in possibly the trade back collection when that releases at the end of the year. So without any further ado, let's jump into the comic because there is a lot to go over with this first issue. So the series opens up with an exterior shot outside of the ruins of the command center, and then we quickly go inside of it, and we've got Jason in there, and Jason is getting knocked around. He then takes out his blade blaster and fires into the darkness, but his attack doesn't work, and he's hit by several blasts of energy. He's knocked back, and then he's confronted by this mysterious cloaked figure. Now, we have no idea who this cloaked figure is. Some people think it's Rita, some people think it's Rita's child. Maybe in this timeline they had a daughter and they didn't have Frax. And I've seen one crackpot theory where people think it's Trini gone evil, but that Trini theory doesn't have a lot of substance to it right now. So I have no idea who this cloaked figure is, but they're able to remove Jason's morpher from the buckler along with the power coin, taking it from him. And this mysterious person calls himself the past, coming back to haunt them. They are the future. So right away we're setting up the mystery and some conflict with whoever this villain is that is hunting down Jason and supposedly killing him, because we don't hear from Jason at all in this issue. So whoever this villain is in the mysterious cloak, it does have my attention with who it might be. Then after that, we get a bit of a time jump and we're at Angel Grove, and we have Billy giving a speech for the Memorial of Trini. And here we have him opening the Trini Quan Memorial Park and Youth Center. And Billy is giving this speech. We get some insight on what kind of life that Trini lived in this universe. We find out that she was the United Nations High Commissioner of Human Rights and also became the mayor of Angel Grove at one point, but not only that, she was the longest serving mayor. And as Billy is making this speech, we do get to see some classic MMPR characters much older. We get to see an older Ernie, a much older Bulk and Skull, and they're kind of weird to see because they still dress the same they did in their teenage years. These guys are probably pushing onto their 40s and it doesn't look like much has changed with them. Bulk has a goatee now. Skull is still rocking that spiked collar. So I do wonder if we'll see more of them in this comic book series to see if they have changed, because in this universe they probably never had their big countdown to destruction moment, so I do wonder what kind of character regression they might have had if they probably just stayed sort of like the bullies or the antagonists to the Rangers in this universe. So it's a bit weird seeing them still in that punk outfit in like probably modern day, especially Skull wearing the spike collar in public. It probably pushing on their 40s, but I do wonder if we'll see more of Bulk and Skull in this comic as the series goes on. Zachman gives his speech, but as he goes to give it, the crowd starts chanting his name and acknowledges him as the Black Ranger. Now this moment I was taken back by, because one of the big rules in Power Rangers was to never reveal your identity, and that does get explained later, and I might as well go over it now. So apparently to keep everyone's identity a secret, Zach was the one who came forth as the Black Ranger, but he would have a story where he said that the other MMPR Rangers he worked with were all over from the world. So this part was a little bit confusing, because in the 30 plus years of Power Rangers, the MMPR Rangers have been able to live normal lives without attention being brought to their identities, with people trying to figure out who they are. So I do wonder what the reason in this story is, why Zach had to come forth and reveal that he was the Black Ranger here, because even in Cosmic Fury, I mean, that's season 30 and we've got Billy in there, and Billy was able to live a peaceful life without anyone trying to discover his identity. He even opened his tech company, and all those years later, no one caught on to him being the Mighty Morphin Blue Ranger. So, like I said, I do wonder what the situation was here that made Zach and everyone else agree to have this idea where Zach would reveal his identity to everyone. But, small nitpick, but hey, it's an interesting concept. So during Zach's speech at the memorial, Kimberly wanders off and looks at all these photos of her and Trini, having some flashbacks of when they were young at the youth center. And here I gotta point out, the artwork done by Nico Leon is fantastic here. It's great. Nico's artwork in this first issue is really freaking good, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do next. So, Kimberly soon finds herself at the graveyard and she's paying some respects to someone. Who that someone is later to be revealed Tommy Oliver. Now, we don't know why Tommy Oliver is dead in this universe, but it's teased and hinted at that he sacrificed himself during the final battle on the moon, and we'll probably dive into more of that as the series continues. We then have Zack finding Kimberly at the tombstone and suggests that they all catch up and have some pie, and here we find out that Kimberly changed her name to Emily Phillips, which is something that was teased in the prelude, but this dinner scene, it goes from 0 to 100 really quick with the tension. So first, everyone is laughing and having a good time as they remembered Trini, but then Zack says that he wishes that the people could have known that Trini was a Power Ranger, and how she saved the world hundreds of times, but Kimberly's against it and says no more tell-all stories, which leads to what I mentioned earlier about Zack being the first one that revealed his identity as a ranger. But Kimberly brings up that if his story changes in the slightest, it probably won't take long for others to figure out that all 5 of them were rangers and they all went to the same school together. But Zack questions what could be so bad about it. It could give Billy's company a boost, and Kimberly's moved to Canada under a different name, so what does she have to lose? And this is what upsets Kimberly, as she says that she has nothing to lose, and tells Zack that he can't make the decision that will affect all of them, and he needs to move on. And on the next panel I love, because you've got Zack responding with this smug smile on his face, this big shit-eating grin, and tells Kimberly that maybe she's the one that needs to move on, and she just responds with a death stare. Billy tries to ease the tension by having this scene where he explains to Kimberly and the audience of what they've been doing for these past couple of years, and we learn about what the Rangers' lives have been as they have entered adulthood, and we get some really cool information here. So, first up is Zack, and we find out that Zack does this charity event, this hip-hop keto festival with clean energy, and it looks really freaking cool, the panels we get here, because you got the Mastodon up on stage and it's shooting confetti, and then the stage is shaped like the MMPR suit diamonds. The artwork here for the stage show is really freaking amazing. And then we learn about what Billy's been doing, because Billy's got his own telecom company now, but he says that telecom company is being used to fund his secret project, and here we get to see Billy's lab on what he's working on, and he says that he managed to salvage Alpha 5's data banks and operating system, and he's been combining into old Ranger tech to make safe teleportation. And I really like that idea here, because Billy says imagine a world where you can have safe teleportation, where you can teleport food to people in need, teleport people out of natural disasters, or even teleport diseased cells out of sick people. And one thing I also really do like about Billy's lab is we have all this cool MMPR stuff in there, like a little Triceratops, a MMPR coffee mug with the Power Rangers lightning bolt on there. But one thing I really do like, and that did tug at the heartstrings, and that is, you see how Alpha 5's head there, and it's on this little pillar, but beside it has got a white rose, and I just really like that little tribute that he made to Alpha 5 that he's got in his lab. So, learning about the power coins being used here, Kimberly's upset about this because they agreed to never morph again, but Billy's quick to defend his actions because he says, hey, I'm not morphing, I'm just using the power coin to help with my research, and Zack does the same thing here with his festival, throwing him right under the bus. So, Kimberly does say, I wonder what Jason would say if he found out what you're doing here with the power coins, and this brings up one of the main topics as we find out what happened to Jason after all these years. So we actually get some big backstory on why Jason became this big vigilante. So here we get this very grim backstory for Jason. So Jason became a firefighter, and a few years ago there was this arson and a lot of people died, and Jason wasn't able to move on for it because he felt responsible because he had the power to help people and he wasn't able to use it. And we have this scene where you see Jason tore up about it, and it is brutal because you see him screaming and crying as he holds onto the fire truck or the ambulance, and behind him you see the burning building of what's left of it, and right next to him you see these body bags being pushed out on a stretcher, those being the people that he was unable to save, and it is brutal. So, Jason started using his powers to save people, but then saving people turned into fighting crime, and then after fighting crime, you move up and you fight terrorism and tanks. That's right, there is this one panel you have Jason taking his power sword through a fucking tank, and I love it. But Jason went rogue and told Billy to stop using the morphin grid and drawing power from it because he wanted to use all that power for himself so that way he can stay morphed forever. Now, Jason's new cosmetics to his Red Ranger suit has been mixed opinions online. Personally, I like it because now we've got some context about it because he always wanted to stay morphed, so he probably needs all those pouches. Now, one thing to note is that the morpher in the holster for the Blade Blaster has been replaced. It's no longer that white belt, it's now made out of what appears to be leather, so it looks like he's handcrafted a belt for his morpher and for his holster for his Blade Blaster. So this is where we find out that Jason's gone missing and the others need to become Rangers once again to find him and bring him home, and they say that they need Kimberly's help. But she declined, saying that she'll never become a Ranger again. And now, we have no idea what happened 22 years ago, but I'm guessing because of the death of Tommy, Kimberly probably wanted the others to stop being Rangers because of what path it had taken them, and the loss and the destruction it brought along the way. So, yeah, you've got the scene where, like, Zach chastises Kim for like turning her back on her friends when they needed the most and how she went cold turkey and stopped talking to him. It's a really deep scene when Zach is just going off at Kim for the choices she's made because she said, let's never morph again. And then after that, she like literally went off the grid and cut everyone off from her lives. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, Kimberly goes back to Canada and she goes to live her normal life, and while she's looking at this old photo of her and Trini, she gets a knock at the door. She then opens it and we're introduced to someone called Selena. Now Selena says that Trini was her mum's cousin. Selena then reveals that she's looking for Kimberly, and although Kimberly says that she's got the wrong person, Selena knows exactly who she is and holds up an old photo of Kimberly and Trini morphed, along with the saber-toothed tiger morpher, saying that Kimberly is going to help her become the next Power Ranger. And that's where the issue ends. So issue 2 is subtitled as Chapter 2, The Next Power Ranger, and that is most definitely related to what we see at the end of this issue, but we'll be talking about that when we get to it near the end of the review/recap. So this issue opens up with a flashback 22 years ago, and here we have the evil space aliens celebrating up in Bandora's palace, as it's just after they destroyed the command center as Zordon and Alpha 5 are dead as they were lost in the explosion. And this is where we get to see what happened on that fateful day where the Power Rangers took the battle to the moon to deal with Lord Zed and Rita. So finally we get to see what happened 22 years ago, where what happened on the moon, what happened to Tommy, because this is the one thing they've been sort of teasing and hyping up with the solicitations. I mean, in the prelude that Amy Jo Johnson did for the 30th anniversary comic, one of the big things we did see was the big crater in the moon, and that gets explained here. So we finally get a good glimpse and a good look at what happened all those years ago. But like I said, the Rangers are going all out in this battle because they bring their Zords up on the moon, and the Rangers barely bring their Zords up on the moon to fight. We did see it in Once and Always and in the comics with the Omega Rangers, but seeing the Dino Zords up on the moon and kicking ass is a really cool thing to see here. Now, the plan they've got here is very interesting. So the plan is to distract the evil space aliens while Tommy and Kimberly sneak into the Moon Palace and plant a giant bomb. And what this giant bomb is, it's basically a Z-Wave before the Z-Wave, as during the battle between Kimberly, Rita, and Tommy, Kimberly and Tommy even say that this bomb is not meant to kill you, it's going to purify you and make you good like us. And this battle is drawn really freaking well. Like, you've got the Rangers in their Dino Zords, and they're fighting off all these classic Mighty Morphin Power Ranger monsters as they're fighting on the moon. But not only that, you've got Goldar going giant, you've got Scorpina going giant, and this battle is just freaking crazy. But it's really cool to see that we're seeing the Z-Wave being implemented into this series. Like, before, like, we actually saw the Z-Wave, like Billy was able to create a bomb in the form of the Z-Wave, which is pretty cool to say, I will say that. Now, things do take a turn for the worse during this assault on the Moon Palace, where Tommy and Kimberly, they're overwhelmed by Putties and Rita Repulsa, and during the battle, Tommy is knocked back as Rita Repulsa gives him a relentless assault. Tommy is knocked back, he hits the bomb, damaging it, but while Tommy's knocked on the ground, Rita is just zapping him with her wand. And Kimberly jumps in to help, but she pulls out her power bow, fires it, hitting Rita Repulsa straight through the chest, killing her. And that scene where I turned the page and I saw the power bow go through Rita Repulsa's chest was kind of a shocking thing to see because, we had Once and Always last year, and that's when Billy stabbed his power lance right through Rita Repulsa's chest. Here, Kimberly just pulled the arrow and pulled the trigger and just killed her, which was something that Tommy did say it had to be done. She didn't really have much of a choice here, and they didn't go to the Moon Palace with the intent to kill. They wanted to purify everyone there and make them good like everyone else. But with Rita Repulsa dead and the bomb damaged, things aren't looking good for our heroes because it feels like that the plan might fail. But Billy soon reveals that there's a backup switch, but the timer will only last for 10 seconds, and Tommy decides to stay behind, and Kimberly wants to stay behind with him, but Tommy refuses, as they both know why Kimberly can't stay behind, hinting at a character we'll see later on at the end of the issue. So the two embrace each other and they kiss, and it's a very emotional moment as they say goodbye to each other. And the Rangers escape as the bomb is detonated and the Rangers safely arrive on Earth. Watching the explosion go off, they soon celebrate, but Jason soon questions, "Where's Tommy?" And then you have Kimberly on her knees, sobbing and crying. So, that battle on the moon, there's a couple of things we got to take away from that. The Z-Wave bomb went off, we don't know if it purified everyone. We've got Tommy, did he die? Did he survive? That is the big question on everyone's mind. I get the feeling that Tommy probably did die in that final battle, and Amy Jo Johnson is sort of writing off Tommy as going out like a hero, protecting the ones that he cared about and loved, much like JDF would do. So that's my big theory and speculation. But if Tommy is alive, that would be probably a big game changer in this comic as well. But we don't know what happened to other villains because, like I said, we've got that mystery cloaked villain that we've seen floating around on the covers. But not only that, we've seen them at the start of the first issue at the very beginning. So there's probably some things left unseen or unanswered with that final battle, and probably some mystery that needs to be unraveled with everything going on. Back in the present day, Kimberly is done telling the story to Selena, and Selena is just full of questions. The first thing that she asks Kimberly is, what happened to the other Rangers? And Kimberly answers by saying, well, the world no longer needed them because they became Rangers at the age of 15, and now that Rita and Zed was defeated, there was no main evil, so it was time for everyone to live normal lives and just move on. So that's why Kimberly moved all the way out into Canada in a cabin in the woods because she wanted a fresh start. But Kimberly believes that Selena wasn't chosen by Trini to become a Ranger. She believes that Trini trusted her to bring the Morpher to her so no one can become a Ranger ever again. So Kimberly is on this mindset that she kind of wants the cycle of Power Rangers to end so no one has to go through what they went through all those years ago. She feels like it's the end of the Power Rangers and they're no longer needed in this world anymore. After that, Kimberly then walks over to a safe and out comes her Morpher, and Selena requests to hold it. So while Selena is holding onto the Morpher, she asks Kimberly this question: how did it feel to kill Rita Repulsa? And this is where things change very quickly with the mood and how dramatic things get. So Selena's like nudging Kimberly on the shoulder, asking if she felt relieved about killing Rita, and Kimberly says that was never part of the plan. She never wanted to kill Rita or Zed. That was a malfunction with what happened there. It wasn't part of the plan, they didn't expect it to happen. And then things get even weirder, where Selena then asks if there will be anyone out there like Rita or Zed again, or will the world ever need Power Rangers again? And Kimberly believes that there is no need for them anymore. But this is where, like I said, things get crazy. Selena then has this sinister grin on her face and questions if she's sure about that answer. And then on the next page, she transforms in what just seems to be a younger version of Rita. So the villain we saw last month, the villain that we've been seeing on all the covers, it's still unclear who this villain is and what they're about, because we don't get any confirmation if this is Rita or if this is Rita's child or not, but whoever they are dangerous. But if you were predicting that Selena was actually like this new villain in disguise, then you guys are great. You guys pulled that prediction out of the park, because I didn't see that coming. I thought it could be a possibility, because when you piece it all together, yeah, how did this 15-year-old girl find Kimberly all the way in the middle of Canada? Doesn't make sense when you think about it. But yeah, that was a crazy turn-pager moment when you just see Selena having that big grin on her face, and then suddenly she transforms into the villain we've been seeing in the comic for the past couple of months. So Kimberly quickly jumps into action, and her first response, well, just throw the morpher at their face, like point blank, throw the morpher at their face. And Kimberly, still having some gymnastic moves in her, she rolls around on the floor, goes to grab the morpher, tries to morph, but she's interrupted as the villain stops her from morphing. And if you've got a villain that's interrupting morph sequences as they're happening, you know they're not to be messed with. So Kimberly's unable to defeat this villain, and she's knocked out cold, and now this mysterious villain now has 2 more morphers added to their collection. So whatever they're doing, it looks like they're collecting morphers, and I'm sure as we've only got 2 more issues to go after this one, we'll probably find out what their true motivation is, probably in next month's issue, because I feel like we're going to get a lot going down within the next couple of issues leading into the finale of this series. And it does suck that this is a mini-series, because I feel like maybe if this went on for more than 4 issues, like maybe 5 or 6 or hell, even 12, I feel like there could have been a lot that could have fleshed out with the story that Amy Jo Johnson wanted to tell here. But hey, maybe we'll get sequel baited, and maybe we'll get something teasing for more stuff like this in the nearby future. It did sell really well, so maybe we'll see more stuff like this later down the line. Who knows? Who knows? So, the final page, we see this fancy car pulling up at Kimberly's place, and they're wondering why all the lights are off. But once they enter the home, they notice that the place is a wreck, and the safe is open, and the morpher has gone missing. So finally, we enter Olivia Hart. So the issue picks up with the last one left off on, where Kimberly was defeated by this new enemy, and she's brought to the remains of the Moon Palace along with her old teammates. And I love the attention to detail for the exterior on the Moon Palace as it's slowly being rebuilt, because you've got putties probably working for more than less than minimum wage, and probably not having any safety nets for something that happens while working on a construction job. But because we're in space right now and there's no gravity, you can see the rubble just floating through the vacuum of space, and I love that attention of detail that Nico has done for the artwork. It looks really freaking cool. I really like that attention to detail that Nico slipped in there, but also it's really cool to see the remains of the Moon Palace, as for the past 20 plus years, it's slowly being rebuilt. But Kimberly wakes up, and we're soon introduced to our main villain of this story, the daughter of Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed, and their name is Selena Repulsa. So I wasn't expecting this to be the villain's name, because in the previews it was censored out, so I assumed that Selena was their alter ego by pretending to be Trini's relative. But looking into the flashback we get in this issue, I can understand why she's got more of an Earth-like name here, and not some sort of evil pun within her name. But I feel like Selena works well for the name that we got for the villain. It threw me off guard because, you know, they did that big censor thing when they dropped the preview pages, but hey, I dig it. I think it's a cool name. So it's revealed that Selena was able to hunt down all the Rangers due to their use of the power coins, and I really like this double page spread we get here as we see her acting out her plan into motion. And I feel like one of the highlight panels for me is we have this scene where Selena was watching Kimberly, Billy and Zach across the road all the way back in the first issue, and you can see this evil grin on their face with some really great shadow and lighting running across their face as well. It's so menacing. I freaking love it. It's a great panel, but not only that, it's a really great 2-page spread that we get here. So Selena also reveals that she won't be the one who kills the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That will be Rita Repulsa herself, because we find out that Rita casted a spell quickly before her death and transferred her essence into the Morphin Grid, and she's been in there for 22 years, and Selena plans on reviving her mother. We then get another big reveal, and that is Finster is alive. How? Well, he hit himself within his vault when the blast went off, and the dude survived by eating the carcasses of his dead monsters. One of those things you can picture in your head with how gruesome it is, and we get a tease of it through a silhouette of Finster just hunched over and eating one of his monsters. Speaking of Finster, his design here is frickin' sweet. I love it. This looks frickin' amazing. Finster has this old man look going on with him where his beard has grown out, his clothes are all tattered and torn, and the bandana he wore, well, that's now covering over his eyes. It looks like he lost it. The dude has had it rough for the past 22 years. Finster then reveals his latest creation, the Morphin-matic, an upgraded version of his Monster-matic we saw in the show. Combined with the reanimating abilities of Lord Zed's staff and using the last of his magic clay. But powering this machine will be the power coins, and this machine will fuel the return of Rita Repulsa. So now we've kind of got a play on words with why this comic is called The Return, because it's called the return of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but not only that, it's probably the return of Rita Repulsa that we might see in the next issue. I don't know for sure yet, but we'll have to wait and find out. Kimberly then asks the question we've all been wondering: how did Selena survive the blast? Because she would have just been a child when this all went down. And Selena replies with, well, her mother saved her. But we look into the past and we see what happened when Tommy set off that bomb, and we find out what really happened on that fateful day. Because it wasn't Rita who saved Selena. It was actually the Power Rangers. So when Tommy was just about to set off the bomb, he soon heard the voice of a child and discovers, well, Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa had a kid. And this is a shocking revelation for Tommy. And he wants to make sure they're safe and he wants to protect them. Finster then enters the room and orders the putties to attack Tommy. And while Tommy's holding onto a young Selena, he tries to explain what's happening. And the putties just keep attacking him, and he's getting knocked back, getting knocked around, and he lands on the button. Tommy is still getting the crap kicked out of him by all these putties while he's trying to protect a young Selena, but during the final seconds before the bomb goes off, he gives Selena his wrist communicator and she teleports herself to Earth. Now, when the bomb goes off, we get to see Tommy witnessing that Rita used her magic to transfer her essence into the bomb, which was the Morphin Grid. So, did Tommy and Rita's spirits both end up in the Morphin Grid? Well, I guess we'll find out in a month, but seeing how Tommy was the one that witnessed Rita Repulsa casting that last spell, and we see her essence going into the bomb, which was the Morphin Grid, well, we'll find out if they both somehow survived, or maybe just the one of them, so guess we'll find out within the next month. Now, Selena does make it back to Earth, and she's discovered by Bulk and Skull, who were in their police academy phase, or they're actually become police officers, like they did in Season 3, and they're having talks about being transferred because nothing interesting happens around these parts in Angel Grove because the Rangers scare all the bad guys away. But they find a young Selena, and it's a cute little moment because she calls Bulk Squat, and I think that's kind of a funny moment. But the flashback ends and we see Tommy, who ended up saving Selena and not Rita. So I wonder how that reveal will go down once she discovers the truth. After that, we then have Selena preparing for the resurrection of Rita Repulsa as the machine gets fired up and everyone except for Kimberly is panicking. Kimberly's just standing there with a big smirk on her face because she knows this isn't going to work. And that's exactly what happens. The machine is unable to power up because they're missing one more morpher. And Kimberly, with a big smirk on her face, tells Selena by saying, hey, there was 6 Rangers, not 5 of us. And Selena says, Tommy's morpher, I made all the putties look for Tommy's morpher. We couldn't find anything amongst all the rubble. And then that's when we dive deeper into that flashback during Tommy and Kimberly's final moments together, as Tommy gave Kimberly his morpher, telling her that if he doesn't make it back, you know who to give this morpher to when they're ready. And Selena is pissed off about this because she wants to revive her mother, of course, and Kimberly, being all calm and collected and being smug in her face, pisses off Selena even more, where she grabs Kimberly by the hair and pulls her out of the barrier, wanting to know the location of the 6th power coin. But while this is all going on, Finster discovers that their sensors have picked up that the 6th power coin has just been activated. But not only that, an energy reading is honing in on the Moon Palace. And then on the final couple of pages, you've got Kimberly on the ground, and she says to Selena by saying, "Selena Repulsa, I'd like you to meet Olivia Hart, my daughter." And then on the final page, you have the Mighty Morphin Green Ranger standing in front of the original Mighty Morphin team, and that's where the issue ends. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return, issue 4 is the big grand finale for this miniseries, as everything comes to a close with issue 4. Or so it seems, and we'll be getting into that later on within the review, because Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Return issue 4, this series in general, this series was fan-frickin-tastic. Like, this series hit the ground running and kept running, and it snuck the landing. Amy Jo Johnson and Matt Hotson and Nico Leon, what they had cooking for this series was fan-frickin-tastic, and I just loved it from start to finish. And if you haven't read Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Return yet, well, you were missing out, and I highly recommend go reading it, because read the 4 issues, read it in trade back whenever you can, read the hardcover whenever you can. This series was fantastic, and it's sad to see it come to an end, because the universe that Amy and Matt has created here, I want to see more of it. And with how this issue ends with a crazy cliffhanger like that, Amy and Matt are definitely sequel baiting and leaving the doors open for a potential sequel if we get to see one later down the line, which I'd be down for if we get another MMPR The Return later down the line, because what Amy and Matt did for this miniseries, I definitely want to see more of it in the nearby future. Like, if we get like another miniseries for MMPR The Return every year or every couple of years, I'd be down for that. That is for sure, because like I said, that ending left the doors open and a lot of questions raised for a lot of different things that I cannot wait to see later down the line if those questions get answered in a sequel for this series. But enough about the potential sequel we could get. That's probably a discussion for another video later down the line. Let's talk about MMPR The Return issue 4, titled Family Reunion. So the issue opens up with Olivia Hart finding her dad's old morpher in a secret location, and with that, she quickly morphs and she's teleported to the moon almost instantly. Like, just like that, she's teleported to the moon. And there are some funny gags that ensue, like she's gonna puke from the teleporting, which is kind of funny. I think that's also a throwback to the first episode of Mighty Morphin, where I think someone made a comment that they were going to puke from the teleportation that they did. But there was a joke that Matt wrote on Twitter saying that there was going to be a scene where Olivia did puke in the helmet, but they scrapped the idea, which would have been funny to see. I think it was either they wrote it in there or they played around with the idea, but it didn't make the final cut, unfortunately. But Olivia Hart is here, and everyone is shocked to learn that Kimberly had a daughter that she was keeping a secret from everyone. And without wasting any time, Selena goes right on the old fence and attacks Olivia because she needs that morpher to revive her mother. Now, one thing I really enjoy about the scuffle between Selena and Olivia here is that Olivia is easily outmatched by Selena in this fight, because Olivia doesn't even get a good hit on Selena during this entire scuffle between the two of them, because there's this one panel, well, there's a couple of panels. There's the first panel we see where Selena goes to throw a punch at Olivia, and Olivia just sidesteps it. And then there's another panel where Olivia tries to help Kimberly, but Olivia just gets caught in the battle, and she gets a knee to the gut. So by observation, it looks like that Olivia probably doesn't have a lot of martial arts skills compared to the Rangers when they were teenagers. And I'm guessing that's because Olivia probably never took up martial arts like the others, or she had never had any training before. So she was just leading a normal life, and now she's using these Ranger powers. So I really like that. I really like that. She's got these Green Ranger powers, but unfortunately, she's barely able to hold her own. So during the scuffle, the Dragon Dagger gets knocked out of Olivia's hands, and Kimberly's able to use it to break the barrier and free the others. So while that's going on, everyone's free. We have a bunch of putties that run down, and we have the MMPR boys taking on a bunch of putties, and it's really cool. It's a really cool fight scene, I will say that. Really well drawn. Now, during the battle, the Green Ranger Morpher gets knocked out of Olivia's hand, and Selena picks it up, and she's finally able to start the machine again and resurrect Rita Repulsa. But while this is going on, Olivia quickly takes charge and spear tackles, I freaking love it. She spear tackles her or elbows her out of the machine and stands in her place to stop the resurrection of Rita Repulsa. And what we get was a reveal that I had mixed feelings on, and I was hoping they wouldn't do. But after reading this issue several times and getting a very satisfying ending, I'm fine with it. So after everyone gets their anime shocked reaction of who comes out of the machine, it's none other than Tommy Oliver back once again. So we get a nice happy reunion between most of the original Rangers, and of course a family reunion between Kimberly and Olivia. And it's a really touching moment, I will say that. Now, the whole reason why Tommy Oliver is alive again, it's because when Rita Repulsa died, she trapped Tommy Oliver's essence within the Morphin Grid as well. Why? Well, it's because Tommy showed kindness and saved Selena, sending her to Earth when he put his wrist communicator on her. So that act of kindness made Rita save him as well. Now, a lot of people were speculating that Tommy might get resurrected like this because they did notice that Tommy was sucked into the Morphin Grid as well with how some of the panels were written during that big climactic battle. And if you were predicting that or you saw that coming, well, thumbs up to you. Now, there was some crackpot theories that I will say, with all due respect, were kind of dumb. Someone made a prediction in my comment section saying, well, what if Selena's able to revive Rita Repulsa and Tommy comes out and he's a Draken? I'm like, why would Draken be in this universe? This is not the mainline Boom Studios universe. Why would Draken be here? That'd be dumb. That'd be a dumb idea. If they resurrected Tommy Oliver that way, that'd be pretty freaking stupid. But to see Tommy back here again, reuniting with his friends, his family, it's a nice touching moment. But the battle isn't over yet because Selena is pissed off with what she's seeing here. And she takes out the saber-toothed tiger morpher, and she morphs into a ranger herself. And I really do like how this plays out. She grabs the morpher and she just says, saber-toothed tiger. She doesn't even say it's morphin time. She just says, saber-toothed tiger. And she morphs into her very own ranger form, which is really freaking cool because it's sort of like this amalgamation between Lord Zed and the Yellow Ranger, where it's got the yellow spandex, but it's got the Lord Zed bone structure around it while keeping intact the MMPR diamonds on it. But not only that, it's the helmet as well. The helmet is very Lord Zed-esque as well, where it's got a red visor, it's got the Lord Zed sort of mouthpiece on it. The saber-toothed tiger ears are more pointy and the eyes are more mean looking, you can say, but not only that, it's got a lot of claws to it as well. Really fantastic design. I really do like it. Like, the design is a fusion between Trini's Yellow Ranger form, Lord Zed, and Rita Repulsa. So I really freaking like it. Like, this is a really cool design. Like, props to Dan Mora, because I think Dan Mora did the character designs for MMPR The Return. So if he's the one that conjured up this really cool form, I like it. But Nico Leon also did a really freaking cool job at drawing this as well. Like, this looks really freaking sweet. Like, I hope we get to see more of this, like, Yellow Ranger, Lord Zed-esque fusion design later down the line. Like, one of the variants is a comic cover of Selena holding that helmet, but hopefully we get like another variant of this with another artist rendition of it, because this is a really cool freaking design. And the transformation sequences, well, they're far from over, because Finster, he's had enough of it. He said for years he's watched the Rangers destroy his putties, his monsters, and now his home. He's done watching, and what he does is he turns into this amalgamation of putty clay and getting giant, and he looks like Goro from Mortal Kombat. That's like the best way to describe him. Or Machamp from Pokemon, except with a giant like scythe hand, because he's got all these arms in the back and he's got one arm that's sort of turning into like this scythe sword thingy. He looks really freaking awesome, especially with like the old man Finster design. He looks so freaking cool. I mean, they made Finster so badass in this. I love it. Crazy, creepy, weird, badass. I just love the return version of Finster. Like, he's taking names and kicking asses. So, of course, then after that we get this mother-daughter transformation sequence with Kimberly and Olivia morphing together, which is really cool to see. I do like it. And Kimberly jumps in to save Tommy and says, "Leave my husband alone." It's a really well-drawn panel here. So Jason, Billy, and Zach are cornered by Mega Finster, and things aren't looking good for them. But suddenly they're saved by Olivia as she stabs Finster in the back with the dragon dagger and hands the boys their morphers, as once again they morph into Rangers. So we've got 5 of the Rangers here squaring off against Selena because they're going to take back their friend's morpher. So they jump into fight, and Olivia's quickly knocked back because, like I said, she's probably got the least fighting experience out of all of them. Because like she tells Tommy, she's only been a Ranger for about 10 minutes. So Olivia and Tommy have this nice, heartwarming first meeting between the two of them, and Tommy is confused as he's trying to take it all in because, you know, he was suddenly resurrected on the moon and he's the same age as he was all those years ago while everyone else around him has gotten older. His daughter's all grown up now. A lot for the guy to take in. But Olivia gives him back his morpher and says, "Go get him because this is yours and you're probably good to use it." So Tommy morphs once again into the Green Ranger, and we have an almost perfect reunion for the MMPR team as they get ready to face off against Selena. So Selena's easily able to swat away the rest of the veteran Rangers except for Kimberly. Kimberly just gymnastics over Selena, and she points her bow at her and says, "Look, I wasn't able to kill your mother, but I'll be sure as hell to make sure I finish you off." And that's pretty dark. I mean, even Olivia says, "Hey, listen to what you're saying." But Tommy soon finds out who they're talking to, and he says, "Wait, Selena? You're Zed and Rita's daughter?" And Tommy tries talking some sense into her by saying, "Hey, your mother is the reason why I'm alive. She saved me. She pulled me into the Morphin Grid with her." And Selena's like, "She hated you. Why would she save you?" And Tommy replies with, "It's because I saved you." And he gives Selena the backstory saying, "Hey, I used my wrist communicator to take you to Earth so that way you could get off the moon." And Selena doesn't believe him. She says lies. And learning about this revelation, Selena leaves the battlefield. But I do like what Tommy says here. Tommy says, "Hey, you were a baby and you were innocent. I didn't save you back then just to fight you now." So, like I said, Selena, unable to take in this big revelation, she just kind of teleports away from the battlefield and leaves, which is kind of a weird and interesting conclusion because, like I said, the doors are open for more later down the line if we get any. So Tommy returns to Earth to lead a normal life with his friends and family once again. And there's a really cool Easter egg on the panel where Tommy is walking through the youth center and seeing all the accomplishments that Trini has done. And one of the things we see, and I missed this on my first reading, I caught it on my second one, but you can see a group of gymnasts, athletes, who are from Japan, and there's 5 of them. If you look very closely, they're based on the Jewel Rangers, the Super Sentai series that MMPR got its source material from when it came to fight footage and stuff like that. And I think that's really cool. That's a nice little Easter egg. But like I said, Tommy's back to leading a normal life, and Kimberly gives this big speech by saying she was so lost without Tommy, and she made the Power Rangers break up because she thought the world didn't need him anymore. But just because there weren't any alien supervillains doesn't mean she should have tried making them stop helping people. And then she goes on to say, hey, I was ready to kill Selena to protect our family, but that's not who we are. We need to find her and we need to help her. The world will always need the Power Rangers. The Power Rangers just don't necessarily need me, at least not on the front line. So Kimberly then hands her morpher to Olivia, and Kimberly's now wearing white and Olivia's now wearing pink, so it's definitely a passing of the torch here. And Olivia agrees that she's definitely going to need some training to brush up on her martial arts, and Tommy of course agrees, which is really cool, but Tommy then asks, saying, hey, Selena's still out there with Trinity's morpher, so we're going to need all the help we can get. So, of course, Billy and Zach agree. Billy says that he doesn't know about being a full-time ranger, but he's always happy to help. But the Jason part is the most interesting thing. I like how this page is written. Jason says, Zordon's been gone for so long, I've forgotten too much about what he taught us, but you haven't, Tommy. I'd love to be part of the team again, long as you're the one leading it. And that made me chuckle. So Tommy is going to lead the Power Rangers, and Jason is going to be second in command, I guess. So that's going to be interesting if we see more of this. So the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are back once again, and Olivia says, all we need is a command center. And then on the final page, it then cuts to the ruins of the command center, because I have no idea where this could be. But Selena teleports in, and she says she was so close to having her mother back, and she screams out to her, and someone walks out of the shadows, the silhouette, and says, who the hell are you? And where's Zordon? And on the final panel, we get a female White Ranger, and it says, to be continued, ? So yeah, that was the ending for MMPR The Return. This series was fan-frickin-tastic. I know I've said that so many times in this video, but this series was amazing from start to finish. But not only that ending, where we have a female White Ranger showing up at the end. Like, I have so many questions, like, is this another dimension? Is this further on in the timeline? Like, what the heck is going on here? Like, because, like, I have so many questions, and I really hope that we get a sequel for this, because they can't just leave us on a cliffhanger like that. And, but this series was great. Like, I really enjoyed this issue. I really enjoyed this series overall. I can't wait to read it in tradeback form from start to finish and just binge it again in hardcover physical form. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. But Amy Jo Johnson, Matt Hotson, Nico Leon, and everyone else involved in this book frickin' killed it. I loved it. And I really hope we get more of this later down the line in the nearby future. So with that said, I think I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out, take care, and bye!